Resolve of our great nation.
Here is a tale of two countries. The first is weak and primitive, but it holds high ideological motives and a history laden with resistance against occupiers over time. The other country, however, has enormous military and technical tools, but it feeds upon arrogance and depends on bad leadership, which has always cost it a lot. Today marks the 20th anniversary of the US invasion of Afghanistan, when the then President George W. Bush launched the so-called Enduring Freedom Operation on October 7, 2001. At that time, the White House administration thought that the mission was a simple one, and that within a few months it would resolve its affairs perfectly. That military operation lasted for 2 decades, and the first commission of combatants was followed by other commissions. And the rapid war slowly turned into an invasion that lasted for years. Catastrophic losses. Afghanistan was a real focus of the American occupation for 20 years. And with the decision of the US President Joe Biden to completely withdraw from the country, the Pentagon announced that the total cost of the war amounted to $822 billion. Fortune magazine described the financial estimates of the US invasion of Afghanistan to have only been exceeded in material cost by World War II for Washington. Non-stop bleeding. Washington will continue to bear the costs of the war for a long time, even after the military withdrawal mission is completed. This is because the United States financed the war on Afghanistan with borrowed money. In their 2019 study, Brown University researchers estimated the benefits included in the total amount at $2.26 trillion. But by 2050, the interest cost alone on Afghan war debt will have reached $6.5 trillion, or $20,000 for every American. Human cost. The American plan presented by General Tommy Franks, then commander of Central Command, to invade Afghanistan was based on the use of a conventional force of 60,000 soldiers. This was what the then Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, objected to, for fear of repeating the old Soviet scenario. At that time, he asked for the support of the northern tribes fighting the Taliban, which happened with the involvement of 5,000 American soldiers backed by NATO forces. Over the years of war deepening and the increase in the intensity of unrest, the number of the US Army reached its peak in Afghanistan with the presence of about 120,000 soldiers in 2011. According to a research project carried out between Brown and Boston universities entitled Costs of War in 2019, more than 3,500 members of the coalition forces were killed in Afghanistan, including 2,300 American soldiers. As for the number of severely wounded and permanently disabled members of the coalition forces in general, it is estimated at more than 22,000, including 19,000 Americans. Yet, if compared to the Afghan civilians and security forces who have lost their lives due to the American policy, the total casualties would be catastrophic. The Brown University report states that more than 69,100 soldiers and policemen were killed and more than 71,000 civilians. Cracked wall. The unified international position that Washington built over many years of the invasion of Afghanistan was cracked by the impact of the recent withdrawal. This was evident in the position of the European Union countries, the three major partners in the aggression: Germany, the UK, and France. Berlin described the event as the biggest failure of NATO since its establishment. As for Paris, it did not hide its annoyance, as it sent a message to the European Union through its finance minister, which said, "We cannot rely anymore on the protection of the United States after its withdrawal from Afghanistan." As for London, Washington's largest and most important ally, it expressed its disappointment and loss through its defense minister, John Wallace, who said that what happened was a mistake and that we will all probably pay the consequences of. Bitter fall. Among those failures and losses, the strategic loss cannot be overlooked as an essential axis, as America's first goal in invading Afghanistan was to bring down the Taliban government, completely crushing it and wipe it out. Despite the massive weaponry and the continuous bombardment on mountains and cities to exterminate Al-Qaeda fighters and engage with them in brutal battles, the most famous of which are Tora Bora and the Battle of Shahi Kot, known as Operation Anaconda, but the organization remained active. The US administration was spending and equipping a base of Afghan government and security institutions as its subordinate, including the Afghan National Army, police forces, and intelligence elements. But the years proved that construction was on the brink of a cliff. With the American withdrawal, the government fell in a few days, and the highly equipped vast army was crushed in front of the Taliban forces, which returned to power and stormed the capital, Kabul, as if time had not passed, and consequently the main goal of the invasion was not achieved, and the Taliban remained in power, which prompted the American political analyst Ishan Tharoor to say that Afghanistan's rapid collapse is part of a long, slow United States defeat. Then, the last American soldier left the country, and for the first time, the Afghans stood and sang their national anthem. This land will shine forever, like the sun in the blue sky.